I'm the Red Lady, and in this second episode of Hecate's Garden, I'm going to explore the realms of mugwort. We'll take a look at some of its ancient uses, medicinal uses, magical and spiritual uses, and culinary uses. And I'll also make a mugwort smudge stick, and I will tell you what transpired in my dream state when I used mugwort in a sleep sachet. And just a reminder that this video is meant for information purposes only. It's not meant as medical advice. So check with your doctor if you're going to use it for medical purposes. Please do like, subscribe and share. Any source material or related links will be listed in the description box below. Now, mugwort or Artemisia vulgaris is well known for being a witch's herb, or the ultimate witch's herb, perhaps. It is, or at least it should be, a key herb in any witch's herb cupboard. Now, mugwort belongs to the Artemisia family, of which there are a range of species that grow throughout the world. And mugwort is largely very common, and some of its favourite places to grow includes roadsides, pathsides, coastal areas and waste ground. It can grow pretty tall in a short space of time and can reach up to about 2 metres. The plant I have in my garden is currently taller than I am. It stands, I measured it, and it stands at the moment at 1.8 metres. So that's not entirely difficult that it's taller than I am, since I'm only 5'1". But yeah, I find it to be an attractive plant with long, deeply incised lobes and purplish stems. It's a beautiful shade of dark green on the upper side, and the underside is rather white. It does have a scent to it, but that usually becomes more apparent when the little flowers appear, usually in midsummer. And as you can see, they've not yet appeared on this plant, as it's the beginning of June, and I find they appear sometime in July. So when the flowers come, they can be a yellow or a pinkish colour. Mugwort likes quite a lot of sun, so you should plant it in a sunny spot, and its roots grow super deep, which enables it to gain a lot of moisture and nutrients from deep down in the soil. So this is probably why it grows so fast. Now, it's a beautiful plant to handle. It's soft, yet it has a strong and protective presence to it. And because the leaves are elongated, I think they look a little bit like fingers. And sometimes when there's a breeze, it almost looks as if it's waving at you with like 100 tiny hands. Now, I do love this plant, and I am so grateful that I was guided by Hecate to grow it in my garden to work with as an ally. Now, as with wormwood in episode 1, mugwort is one of the plants sacred to the goddess Artemis. It is also strongly connected to St. John, or St. John the Baptist, as he allegedly wore a girdle of it while out in the wilderness. Mugwort has been used by people for thousands of years. It is mentioned in ancient Chinese medicinal lore and also in Roman and Greek writing. It is said that Roman soldiers would put the leaves in their sandals to reduce fatigue during long marches. In European folklore, it is also said to protect against fatigue, poisons and injury. Mugwort is mentioned in an Old English charm called the 9 Herbs charm, recorded in the 10th century in an Anglo-Saxon medical compilation known as Lacnunga, which you can find in the British Library in London. The 9 herbs charm, or the Mugwort Hecate, it's a bit of a mouthful, is an old English healing spell known as a galder, and it appears to be a charm to heal a wound of some kind. So after bathing the wound and the preparations and applications of a specific salve, the charm is then sung over the 9 plants and also then sung into the mouth, ears and wound of the patient. Now, the charm has been translated into modern English, and if you're curious to hear it, I will recite it at the end of the video. Mugwort is the first herb out of the 9 mentioned, and not all of the herbs in this charm are known. It is debatable as to which plant is being referred to with regards to some of them, although the mugwort part is pretty clear. So please stay until the end of the video if you want to hear the 9 herbs charm. It is said that mugwort was important to the Druids and was used to enhance their psychic powers. Now, this links into what occurred in my dream state when I used a mugwort sleep sachet, which I will explain a little bit later. Now, traditionally, people have used mugwort to treat a variety of health conditions, including digestive complaints. A slight infusion is apparently good for alleviating gas, bloating, travel sickness, constipation, and stimulating the appetite. It is reputed to relieve menstrual cramps and stimulate the uterus and assist with menopausal symptoms and erratic menstruation. However, it should never be taken by pregnant or lactating women. You can apply it topically, as it is said to have antibacterial and antifungal properties. It has also been used as a mild sedative for calming the nerves and to help reduce stress. It was also used to treat bruises, itching, and underarm and foot odour. The Chinese use an ancient technique called moxibustion, which is a type of therapy that involves burning dried mugwort over or on certain points of the body, and this is sometimes used hand in hand with acupuncture needles. It is reputedly to treat a variety of conditions and stimulate good blood flow and good flow of qi. The mugwort used for this would typically be the Chinese variety, Artemisia argi, or argi, if I pronounced that correctly. But I thought this information would make an interesting addition to this mugwort video. So mugwort does have some culinary uses as well. It could be used to season meat dishes, especially lamb or game, as it helps to digest these foods more easily. It is also used for Kusa Mochi or mochi, which is a Japanese mugwort rice cake. I'll put a link to the recipe for that in the description box below if you're interested. Mugwort is also used in Germany as a traditional seasoning for the Christmas goose, and it was traditionally used to flavour beer before the use of hops. An infusion of mugwort, which is mugwort steeped in hot water, can be used in the home as a cleaning agent, which I'm guessing would be due to its antibacterial properties, and it will also repel insects. So it's also good to hang in bunches around the home, or at least in the kitchen, to repel flies and such. Now, if you are a magical practitioner or just started out as a magical practitioner, you can also use an infusion of mugwort to cleanse your magical tools of negative energy. You can wash your crystals or magic mirrors with it. Mugwort is used in recipes for psychic teas, divinatory incenses, sleep sachets for prophetic and psychic dreaming and astral projection. It can be burned to enhance your scrying. It can be carried to help with fertility. It can be added to sachets for protection during travelling and hang on doors to prevent anything negative or harmful from entering. Mugwort can be used in planetary magical workings associated with the moon or the planet Venus, and its element is earth. Now, moon magic, besides the obvious full moon and dark moon times, is usually done on a Monday, and planetary magic for Venus is usually done on a Friday. Now, there is some debate as to whether you should associate mugwort with Venus. Now, my stance on this is that they both carry feminine qualities, so it depends on what kind of magical work you want to do as to whether you link mugwort to the moon or to Venus for specific work ends. You know, why don't you try it and find out what happens and what kind of energy results? You know, you might be pleasantly surprised. I'm not one for not doing something just because someone else has said so. I always try to experiment and find out for myself what works and what doesn't. Now, mugwort is also known as sailor's tobacco. It can be used for smoking, and when they had run out of tobacco, sailors would often pull up around the coastlines and use mugwort to smoke as a tobacco substitute, as coastal areas are one of the places where mugwort thrives. So it can be smoked along with your usual tobacco, or it can be smoked on its own. It is sometimes smoked before divination work or dream work, or to help with reaching altered states of consciousness with intent. However, mugwort can cause allergic reactions in those who are prone to allergies. So if you are a hay fever sufferer, it may be one of the pollens from mugwort that causes a reaction. It can also exacerbate asthmatic symptoms. So if this is the case, it may be wise to do an allergy test before using mugwort. Now, I usually harvest the plant at the end of the summer and hang a nice bunch of it in the kitchen. Over the winter season, I just leave it there all year, and then I replace it every year with the fresh mugwort from the garden. So I use dried mugwort to burn as an offering to Hecate, sometimes on its own and sometimes with lavender, just burned loose on some charcoal. Smudge sticks are more commonly made with sage. But since I have such a large plant in the garden, I thought I would make a mugwort smudge stick to burn as a space cleanser, and also just to give a relaxing sense of tranquility around the home. Now, I can also use it to burn before any divination that I might do. So now, ideally, I would do this after the plant has flowered and use the tops of the plant, but the leaves will work just fine on their own for smudging since my plant hasn't flowered yet. So I'm just going to make a super simple smudge stick, nothing fancy. I've taken some branches from the lower half of the mugwort plant and left them to air out for 24 hours in the shade. My dog did steal a couple of those branches while they were airing and ran across the garden to play with them. So they were a bit bashed up and not suitable to use. And as a result, this smudge stick turned out to be rather more skinny than intended, but it's still perfectly okay to use. So removing any brown or unsightly leaves, and then you can cut so that they are equal lengths, and using some string or cotton, tie a knot at the base and wrap around a few times. Then wind the string up the bundle and then wrap around and back down again, creating a crisscross design. So make sure you wrap the leaves as tight as you can, and then tie another knot when you get to the bottom. And then you can hang it up to dry. Now, the length of time it takes to dry out can really depend on how humid it is in your area. So it could take anything from a few days to a couple of weeks, and then it's ready to burn. So if you are more artistically inclined, I suppose you can jazz it up by using coloured string or coloured cotton, or by tying a ribbon at the bottom. You can also use a mix of herbs in there, such as mugwort, sage, and lavender, or other combinations using this same method. It's a pretty standard method. So when burned as an incense, smoked, or taken as a tea, with the correct intention, it can bring you to a liminal state, or an altered state of consciousness, and it provides protection as it does so. It's also very calming, and this is why it's great for burning in your magical workspace. Now, I used a sachet to do some dream work, and I simply slept with it next to my pillow. Now, in episode 1 with the wormwood, I took a tea before bed. So in this episode, I wanted to do something slightly different. And I did have some rather unusual dreams, one of which involved being underwater and having to dive deep down until we reached, and I say we because there were others with me, but I don't recall who or even if I knew them. So we dived down until we reached a huge cavernous air pocket at the bottom of the ocean. So that was interesting. I don't remember much else about that part, but later on then I was dreaming that I was speaking to a man dressed in a white robe. Now, I was sat at his feet, and I was rather in awe of this man, to be honest, because I knew he was a holy man. And in my dream, it was as if I knew him, but I've actually never seen him before. And he gave me a bracelet of white stones, which he tied around my wrist. Now, having shown me a brief view of the British flag, I'm concluding this man was a druid. Now, that's the sense I got when I woke. I didn't get a name, but he did tell me that he spoke to me, and he told me that the ancient people would use mugwort before death, whether it was their natural time to go or whether they were being sacrificed or executed. They were allowed to have the plant about their person, or were allowed to drink a tea of mugwort, or have it ritually burned over them or around them in order to keep unwanted spirits away and to ensure a safe and protected passage to the next world. Now, I've never heard of mugwort being used in this way, so in the morning I decided to do a little bit of research, and I did find something. Apparently, a man was unearthed by researchers in 1996, possibly around 2,000 years ago. He was buried in Colchester, England, and he appeared to be some kind of medical man, possibly a druid, due to all the medical paraphernalia found with him. And among the herbal brews he was buried with was a cup, and inside the cup were traces of mugwort. Now, I don't know what anyone else thinks about this, but to me that suggests that a mugwort brew could well have been the last thing he drank before he died. Who knows if that would have been in a ritual context, relating to the information that I got from my dream, or maybe it was chance. But this is the information that I found when I researched this. So there's no solid evidence for what this druid told me in my dream. But when a spirit makes the effort to connect with me and gives me specific information, then in my eyes, that is something of huge importance, and I'm truly grateful for his assistance. And I have a duty to pass that information on. And I thought that was a super interesting outcome from using the Mugwort Dream Sachet. So I will put a link to the information on the Colchester Druid in the description box below if you're interested to check that out. Now, even though I am a Celtic spirit worker, I don't call myself a druid. I prefer to describe my practice as shamanic witchcraft, but there are undoubtedly deep undertones of druid influence to my work. I don't call myself a druid because then people may assume that I belong to one of the modern schools of druidry here in the UK, and I don't belong to any of those modern schools. Now, I feel shamanic witchcraft is more of a global term that people can better relate to, I suppose. So, however, I am very aware of these ancient druidic spiritual influences that are connected to the land where I live. Now, I did say that I would recite the 9 herbs charm at the end of the video for those who wanted to hear it. So here it is. Remember, mugwort, what you brought to pass, what you readied at Reganmeld. You called Una, that most ancient plant. You defeat 3, you defeat 30, you defeat venom, you defeat a illness, you defeat the horror who stalks the land. And you, waybread plant mother, you're open to the east, yet mighty within. Carts creaked over you, women rode over you. Over you, brides bellowed, over you, bulls snorted. You withstood it all, and you pushed back. You withstood venom. You withstood a illness. You withstood the horror who travels over land. Now, this plant is called Stoon. She who grows on stone, she defeats venom. She grinds away pain. She's called Stithe. She who withstands venom, she chases away malice, casts out pain. This is the plant that fought against the worm. She is mighty against venom. She is mighty against a illness. She is mighty against the horror who travels over the land. You, venom loathe, go now. The less from the great from the less, until for both he receives a remedy. Remember, chamomile, what you brought to pass, what you accomplished at Alofod, that no one should lose their life to disease, since for him chamomile was prepared. Finally, this plant is known as Wurgaloo, who a seal sent over sea ridges to aid against venom. These 9 plants defeat 9 venoms. A worm came slithering, and yet he killed no one. For wise Woden took 9 glory twigs and smote the serpent, who flew into 9 parts. There, apple overcame venom. There, the worm would never find shelter. Phil and Fennel, a most mighty pair, the wise Lord shaped these plants, while he wholly hung in the heavens. He sent them from the 7 worlds, 7 ages of man, for wretched and wealthy alike. She stands against pain, she stands against venom, she is potent against 3 and against 30, against a foe's hand, against great guile, against malice and bewitchment, from animal and spirit. Now may the 9 plants do battle against 9 glory flares, against 9 venoms and against 9 air diseases, against the red venom, against the running venom, against the white venom, against the blue venom, against the yellow venom, against the green venom, against the black venom, against the blue venom, against the brown venom, against the purple venom, against worm blister, against water blister, against thorn blister, against thistle blister, against ice blister, against venom blister. If any venom comes flying from the east, or any comes from the north, or any from the west over folk. Christ stood over illness of every kind, yet I alone know water running where the 9 serpents guard. Now may all plants arise, seas ebb, all salt water, when I blow this venom from you. I am the Red Lady. Thanks for listening. Please do like, subscribe and share, and don't forget to check the description box below for any relevant links.